My name is Artie Maxwell, and I'm 72 years old. For most of my life, I believed my family loved me. I believed they cared about my well-being, my happiness, my future. I was wrong. My 3 children, Winnie, Judge, and Royal, had been planning something behind my back for months. Something that would leave me penniless, powerless, and completely at their mercy. They thought they'd won. They thought their plan was foolproof. But on one cold February afternoon, sitting in a lawyer's office surrounded by my smug children, I flipped their entire scheme completely. And the screams that followed, I'll never forget them as long as I live. I sat in the conference room of Martinez and Associates law firm, my hands folded calmly in my lap. Across from me sat my 3 children, all looking confident and satisfied. Beside them sat their lawyer, Homer Clark, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit who kept glancing at his watch like he had somewhere more important to be. And at the head of the table sat my lawyer, Dovie Martinez, a sharp woman in her 50s who'd been quietly reviewing documents while everyone else talked. "So, Mother," Winnie said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "are you ready to sign the papers?" "What papers exactly?" I asked, though I knew exactly what papers she meant. "The power of attorney documents," Judge said impatiently. "We've been over this. You're getting older. You need someone to help manage your affairs. We're just trying to help you." "Help me," I repeated slowly. "Is that what you're calling it?" "Yes," Royal said firmly. "You're 72 years old, Mom. You can't handle everything on your own anymore. We're your children. We want to take care of you." I looked at each of them in turn. Winnie, my oldest at 51, who'd always been the most calculating. Judge, my middle child at 48, who'd inherited his father's arrogance. And Royal, my baby at 45, who'd always been the most easily influenced by his siblings. They all looked so sure of themselves, so certain they'd cornered me. "And if I sign these papers," I said, "you 3 would have complete control over my finances, my property, and all my medical decisions. Is that correct?" "That's correct," Homer, their lawyer, said smoothly. "It's a comprehensive power of attorney, very standard for elderly clients who need assistance." "Elderly," I repeated with a slight smile. "I'm 72, not 92. I still work part-time. I drive. I manage my own home. What exactly makes you think I'm incapable of handling my own affairs?" "Mom, don't be difficult," Winnie said with a sigh. "We've noticed things. You've been forgetting appointments, getting confused. It's just age, nothing to be ashamed of." "I haven't forgotten a single appointment," I said, "and I'm not confused about anything, especially not about what you 3 are really trying to do." The room went quiet. My children exchanged glances. "What are you talking about?" Judge asked, though his voice had lost some of its confidence. "I'm talking about the fact that this isn't about helping me," I said calmly. "This is about getting control of my money, the $3 million I have in savings and investments, the house that's worth another $1 million, my pension, my Social Security, all of it." "That's not true," Royal protested. "We're trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I pulled out my phone. "Is that why you've been meeting with financial advisors about what to do with your inheritance? Is that why you've been looking at retirement homes to put Mother in? Is that why you've already picked out which of my possessions you each want when I'm no longer capable of living independently?" All 3 of my children's faces went pale. "How did you?" Winnie started. "How did I know?" I smiled. "Because I'm not senile, Winnie. I'm not confused, and I'm not stupid. You've all been so busy plotting that you didn't notice I was watching, listening, documenting everything." I turned to Dovie, my lawyer. "I believe it's time." Dovie nodded and pulled out a thick folder. "Mrs. Maxwell hired me 3 months ago when she discovered her children's plan. We've been preparing for this meeting." "What plan?" Homer, their lawyer, asked sharply. "What is she talking about?" "She's talking about the fact that her children have been systematically trying to convince everyone, family, friends, medical professionals, that she's incompetent," Dovie said, "so they could gain power of attorney and control her substantial assets." "That's ridiculous," Judge said. "We would never." "You would and you did," I interrupted. You told my doctor I was getting forgetful. You told my friends I was confused. You told the bank I was having trouble managing my money. All lies. All designed to build a case for me being incompetent. We were concerned, Winnie insisted. You were greedy, I said flatly. But here's what you didn't know. I've been recording your conversations. I've been documenting your meetings. And I've been making some changes of my own. I nodded at Dovey again. She slid papers across the table to my children. What is this? Royal asked, picking up the documents. That, I said, is notification that I've changed my will, completely. The room exploded. You what? Winnie shrieked. Changed my will, I repeated calmly. The new will is already filed and notarized. Would you like to know what's in it? You can't do this, Judge shouted. I absolutely can, I said. It's my money, and I just decided how it's going to be distributed when I die. We're your children, Royal said desperately. You can't cut us out. Can I? I smiled. Watch me. Dovey cleared her throat. The new will leaves Mrs. Maxwell's entire estate, all $4 million to various charities. The Children's Shelter, the Women's Shelter, the Animal Rescue, the Literacy Foundation. Not one penny goes to her children. The screams that followed were deafening. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back 6 months, to when I first discovered what my children were planning. It started with an overheard conversation. I was at Judge's house for Sunday dinner, something we did as a family once a month. I'd gone to the bathroom, and when I came out, I heard voices in Judge's study. The door was slightly open. I recognized my 3 children's voices. Something in their tone made me stop and listen. We need to move faster, Winnie was saying. Mom's not getting any younger, but she's still sharp. If we wait too long, she'll figure out what we're doing. I'm working on it, Judge said. I've already talked to her doctor about concerns regarding her memory. The doctor agreed to note it in her file. But she doesn't have memory problems, Royal said nervously. Isn't that lying? It's not lying, it's being proactive, Winnie said impatiently. Royal, do you want to inherit Mom's money or not? Of course I do. But then stop being squeamish, Judge said. We're doing this for her own good. She's getting old. She needs help managing her affairs. And if we happen to benefit financially, that's just fair compensation for taking care of her. Have you talked to that lawyer yet? Winnie asked. Yes, Judge said. He says once we establish a pattern of incompetence, getting power of attorney will be easy. Then we can manage her money properly. Properly, Winnie repeated with a laugh. You mean we can start spending it? Investing it, Judge corrected, for her benefit and ours. I stood frozen in the hallway, my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. My children, my own children, were plotting to take control of my money by making me seem incompetent. What about the house? Royal asked. It's worth at least $1 million. We sell it, Winnie said. Put Mom in a nice retirement community. Use the money to take care of her. Which means use it for ourselves, Judge said. But we'll make sure she's comfortable. We're not monsters. Of course not, Winnie agreed. We love Mom. We're just being smart about our inheritance. I quietly backed away from the door and went back to the dining room, my mind reeling. My children were planning to steal from me, to take everything I'd worked my whole life to build. And they were going to do it by making everyone think I was losing my mind. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I'd overheard. Part of me wanted to believe I'd misunderstood, that my children couldn't possibly be so cruel, so calculating. But I knew what I'd heard, and I needed to know how far their plan had already progressed. The next morning, I called my doctor's office and asked for a copy of my medical records. It was my legal right to see them. When I got them, I was shocked by what I found. There were notes from judges, concerns about my memory. Notes saying I'd been confused during appointments, which was a complete lie. Notes suggesting early cognitive decline. I'd never been confused. I'd never shown signs of memory problems, but these notes made it look like I had. I called the bank, where I'd had accounts for 40 years. Mrs. Maxwell, the manager, Zenobia, greeted me warmly. How can I help you? Zenobia, has anyone from my family contacted you about my accounts? I asked. Well, yes, Zenobia said, sounding surprised. Your daughter Winnie called last week. She expressed some concerns about your ability to manage your finances. Said you'd been making some unusual purchases and seemed confused about your accounts. Did she ask for access to my accounts? I asked. She asked if we could add her as a joint account holder to help you, Zenobia said. I told her you'd need to come in yourself to make that change. Was that correct? Absolutely correct, I said. Zenobia, I'm not confused about my finances. I'm perfectly capable of managing my own money. My daughter was lying to you. There was a pause. Oh my, Mrs. Maxwell, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. It's not your fault, I said, but I need you to put a note on my account. No changes can be made without my express written permission, and no one else is to be given any information about my accounts, even if they claim to be helping me. I'll make that note immediately, Zenobia promised. Next, I called my financial advisor. Same story, Winnie had contacted him, expressing concerns about my mental state and asking about my investment portfolio. I called my insurance company. Judge had contacted them, asking about my life insurance policies and whether they could help him understand his mother's coverage since she was getting confused. Everywhere I looked, my children had been laying groundwork, building a case, creating a paper trail of concerns about my competence. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. And they'd been doing it behind my back, smiling to my face while plotting to take everything I had. I knew I needed help, legal help, someone who could advise me on how to protect myself. A friend recommended Dovie Martinez, a lawyer who specialized in elder law and estate planning. I made an appointment and told her everything, what I'd overheard, what I'd discovered, what my children were trying to do. Dovie listened carefully, taking notes. Mrs. Maxwell, she said when I finished, what your children are doing is called financial exploitation. It's a form of elder abuse, and it's more common than you'd think. Can they succeed? I asked. Can they actually take control of my money? If they can convince a judge that you're incompetent, yes, Dovie said honestly. That's why they're building this false narrative of cognitive decline. They're creating evidence to support their claim. But I'm not incompetent, I said. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with me can see that. I agree, Dovie said, which is why we need to be proactive. We need to document your competence, expose their scheme, and protect your assets. How? I asked. First, we get you a full cognitive evaluation from an independent doctor, Dovie said. Someone your children haven't contacted. That will establish officially that you're mentally sound. Okay, I said. Second, we document everything your children are doing. Record conversations if you can. Get copies of all their communications with your doctor, bank, anyone they've contacted. Build a case showing their pattern of behavior. I can do that, I said. Third, we revise your estate plan. Make it clear that you're making these decisions while of sound mind. And make sure your children know there are consequences for trying to exploit you. What kind of consequences? I asked. Dovie smiled. That's up to you, Mrs. Maxwell, but I have some suggestions. 2 weeks later, I underwent a comprehensive cognitive evaluation with Dr. Sterling Chen, a neuropsychologist who specialized in aging and dementia. The evaluation took 4 hours. Dr. Chen tested my memory, my reasoning, my language skills, my problem-solving abilities, everything. When we were done, he smiled. Mrs. Maxwell, I can confidently say you have the cognitive function of someone 20 years younger. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning is sharp. There is absolutely no sign of cognitive decline, mild or otherwise. Can you put that in writing? I asked. I'll have a full report ready by the end of the week, Dr. Chen assured me. I took that report to Dovie. She added it to the growing file documenting my competence and my children's exploitation attempts. This is good, Dovey said. Very good. Now about your estate plan. I want to cut them out completely, I said. All 3 of them. Dovey raised her eyebrows. Are you sure? That's a significant decision. I'm sure, I said. They were planning to take my money by making me seem incompetent. They don't deserve a penny of it. Where would you like your estate to go instead? Dovey asked. I thought about it. Charities, organizations that help people. The children's shelter, the women's shelter, the animal rescue, the literacy foundation. Places that actually do good in the world. That's very generous, Dovey said. It's my money, I said. I worked hard for it. My late husband and I built that nest egg together over 40 years, and I'm not going to let my greedy children steal it just because they can't wait for me to die naturally. Dovey nodded. I'll draft the new will, but Mrs. Maxwell, I should warn you, when your children find out about this, they're going to be upset. Good, I said. They should be upset. Maybe it will teach them a lesson. There's one more thing, Dovey said. Your children are going to try to challenge this will. They'll claim you were coerced or incompetent or that I took advantage of you. How do we prevent that? I asked. By being thorough, Dovey said. We'll have the will signing videotaped. We'll have witnesses who can attest to your sound mind. We'll document everything so there's no question about your intent or capacity. And that's exactly what we did. Once the new will was signed and filed, Dovey and I came up with a plan. Your children are planning to spring their power of attorney on you, Dovey said. They'll probably try to make it seem urgent, like you need to sign immediately for your own protection. So what do? I asked. We beat them to it, Dovey said. We call a meeting. Tell them you've been thinking about estate planning and you want to discuss it with all of them together. They'll think they're winning, I realized. They'll think I'm voluntarily giving them what they want. Exactly, Dovey said with a smile, and then we flipped the script completely. So I called my children and told them I wanted to meet with them and their lawyer to discuss my future care and estate planning. They were thrilled. They thought I was finally going to cooperate with their scheme. They had no idea what was coming. Which brings us back to that conference room at Martinez and Associates, with my children screaming about the new will. You can't leave everything to charity, Winnie was yelling. We're your family, we deserve that money. Deserve? I asked calmly. What exactly have you done to deserve it? We're your children, Judge shouted. That's what we've done, we're your flesh and blood. And you've been plotting to steal from me for months, I said. You've been calling my doctor, my bank, my financial advisor, lying about my mental state. You've been trying to convince everyone I'm incompetent so you can take control of my money. We were trying to help you, Royal insisted. No, you weren't, I said. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. It was the conversation I'd overheard at Judge's house 6 months ago. Their voices were clear. We need to move faster. Mom's still sharp. If we wait too long, she'll figure out what we're doing. I've already talked to her doctor about concerns regarding her memory. Do you want to inherit Mom's money or not? Once we establish a pattern of incompetence, getting power of attorney will be easy. The room fell silent as the recording played. When it finished, my children were pale and speechless. That's when he couldn't finish. That's you 3 plotting to exploit me, I said. I have hours of recordings like this, conversations about selling my house, spending my money, putting me in a home, all while I'm still perfectly healthy and competent. Mom, we can explain, Judge started. No, I interrupted. You can't. There's no explanation that makes this okay. You tried to steal from me, and now you're facing the consequences. ARTIE just REVEALED, she knows everything. She changed her will, cutting her greedy children out completely. But what happens next? How will her children react? And what other surprises does Artie have planned? This story is just beginning. Subscribe now. Hit that like button and turn on NOTFICTONS. Drop a comment. Do you think Artie did the right thing? Do her children deserve anything from her estate? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Kenya, Jamaica, Australia? Let me know. The silence in the conference room was deafening after I played the recording. My 3 children sat frozen, their faces showing a mixture of shock, fear, and panic. Homer Clark, their lawyer, was frantically flipping through his notes, clearly realizing his clients had lied to him about the situation. "Mrs. Maxwell," Homer said carefully, "I was not aware of the full circumstances. I was told you were experiencing cognitive difficulties and that your children were acting in your best interest." "They lied to you," I said simply, "just like they lied to my doctor, my bank, and everyone else." "Mom, please," Winnie said, her voice now trembling instead of angry. "Can we talk about this privately? Just family." "We are talking privately," I said. "This is as private as it's going to get. You wanted a meeting about my estate planning? Well, here it is. The estate is planned. You're not in it." "This is insane," Judge said, finding his voice. "You're cutting us out over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding," I repeated. "Is that what you're calling attempted financial exploitation now?" Royal started crying. "Mom, we love you. We were just worried about you. Maybe we went about it the wrong way, but our intentions were good." "Your intentions were to steal my money," I said flatly. "Don't try to pretty it up now that you've been caught." "We weren't stealing," Winnie protested. "We're your children. Everything you have should go to us eventually anyway." "Should it?" I asked. "Why? Because you were born to me, because you existed. What have any of you done to deserve my estate?" "We're your family," Judge said. "Family doesn't plot behind each other's backs," I said. "Family doesn't lie to doctors and banks. Family doesn't try to convince the world that their own mother is incompetent just to get access to her money." "How long have you known?" Winnie asked quietly. 6 months, I said. "Since I overheard you plotting at Judge's house. I've known everything since then, and I've been documenting all of it." "This is elder abuse," Winnie suddenly declared, turning to Homer. "She's being manipulated by her lawyer. This woman," she pointed at Dovey, "has obviously convinced Mom to cut us out so she can take the money herself." Dovey smiled calmly. "Mrs. Maxwell's estate is going to registered charities, not to me. I don't benefit financially in any way from her will. Unlike you 3, who stood to inherit $4 million. "Stood to," Royal picked up on the past tense. "What do you mean stood to?" "I mean it's done," I said. "The will is filed, notarized, and completely legal. When I die, which won't be for a long time if I have anything to say about it, my entire estate goes to charity. Not 1 penny to any of you." "You can't do this," Judge shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "We'll fight it, we'll contest the will." "On what grounds?" Dovey asked calmly. "Your mother has been evaluated by an independent neuropsychologist. She's been deemed fully competent. The will was created and signed with multiple witnesses, and the entire process was videotaped. There's no legal basis for a contest." "We'll say she was coerced," Winnie said desperately. "By whom?" Dovey asked. "Mrs. Maxwell came to me of her own free will. We have documentation of every meeting, every conversation. And we have recordings of you 3 plotting to exploit her. If anyone's been engaging in coercive behavior, it's you." Homer Clark cleared his throat. "Mr. and Mrs. Maxwell, I think we need to have a private consultation. I'm not sure continuing this conversation is in your best interest." "Too late for that," Winnie said bitterly. "She's already done it. She's already cut us out." "Because you tried to steal from me," I said. "Actions have consequences, Winnie. You taught me that when you were raising your own children. Remember, you always said people need to face the consequences of their bad choices." "That's different," Winnie said. "How?" I asked. "How is it different?" She didn't have an answer. "There's more you should know," I said, pulling out another folder. "I hired a private investigator to look into your finances, all 3 of you." "You did what?" Judge looked horrified. "I wanted to understand why you were so desperate for my money," I said, "and I found some very interesting things." I opened the folder and pulled out documents. "Winnie, you're $700,000 in debt. Credit cards, personal loans, a second mortgage on your house. You've been living far beyond your means for years, and it's finally catching up to you." Winnie's face went bright red. That's private. So was my medical information, but you didn't hesitate to share false information about me with my doctor, I said. Judge, you've made some very bad business investments. Your company is on the verge of bankruptcy. You need a cash infusion to save it, and you were counting on my money to do that. Judge looked down at the table, saying nothing. And Royal, I turned to my youngest, you've been gambling. Online poker, sports betting, casino trips. You've lost over $200,000 in the past 2 years alone. Royal's tears were flowing freely now. Mom, I have a problem, I know I do, but I'm getting help. Are you? I asked. Because according to your bank statements, you placed bets totaling $15,000 just last week. Royal had no response. So all three of you are in serious financial trouble, I said. And instead of coming to me honestly, asking for help, working out a plan, you decided to just take what you wanted by making me seem incompetent. Does that about sum it up? We didn't know what else to do, Winnie said desperately. We're drowning, Mom, we need help. Then you should have asked for help, I said. Honestly, openly, like adults, not plotted to steal from me like criminals. We're not criminals, Judge protested. Aren't you? Dovey interjected. Identity theft, fraud, conspiracy to commit financial exploitation, these are all crimes. Mrs. Maxwell would be well within her rights to press charges. The room went silent again. My children looked terrified. Are you going to? Winnie whispered. Are you going to have us arrested? I let the question hang in the air for a long moment. No, I finally said. Not if you agree to my terms. What terms? Judge asked cautiously. I pulled out 3 more documents and slid them across the table. These are agreements, I said. If you sign them, I won't press charges and I won't publicly expose what you tried to do. But there are conditions. What conditions? Royal asked, picking up the document with shaking hands. First, all 3 of you will enter financial counseling, I said. You clearly can't manage money properly, so you're going to learn how. I've already arranged for a financial counselor who specializes in debt management. That's fair, Royal admitted quietly. Second, you will each write a formal apology letter to every person you contacted with lies about my competence. My doctor, my bank manager, my financial advisor, everyone. You will admit you lied and you will apologize. That's humiliating, Winnie said. So was having my own children tell my doctor I'm losing my mind, I replied. Third, you will pay back every penny you borrowed or spent in anticipation of inheriting my money. I don't care how long it takes. You'll work out payment plans with your creditors, but you will not declare bankruptcy or try to escape your debts. Some of us might not have a choice about bankruptcy, Judge said. Then you'll lose what you lose, I said. But you'll do it honestly, not by stealing from me. Fourth, for the next 5 years, you will have no contact with my financial institutions. You will not call my bank, my financial advisor, or anyone else involved in managing my money. Any concerns you have will go through my lawyer. 5 years, Winnie asked. 5 years, I confirmed. That should be enough time to prove you can be trusted again. Or not. Fifth, you will attend family therapy together, all 3 of you. You need to understand why what you did was wrong and how to rebuild trust. And if we don't agree to these terms, Judge asked. Then I press charges, I said simply. And I go public with everything. Your fraud attempts, your debt, all of it. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you tried to do. Winnie looked at her brothers. They all looked miserable, but they didn't seem to have much choice. And if we agree to all this, Winnie asked slowly, will you change your will back? I smiled. No. What? All 3 of them shouted at once. The will stays as is, I said firmly. My estate goes to charity. That decision is final. But then what's the point of agreeing to your terms? Judge demanded. The point is staying out of jail, I said. The point is not having your reputations destroyed. The point is having a chance to rebuild your relationships with me before I die. Those are the benefits. Take them or leave them. Homer Clark pulled my children aside for a hushed consultation. I could hear fragments of their conversation. No choice. Could go to prison. Humiliating but necessary. After 10 minutes, they came back to the table. "We'll sign," Winnie said, her voice flat. "We'll agree to all your terms." "Good," I said. Dovey pulled out pens and passed them around. One by one, my children signed the agreements. As Royal signed his, he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I know you probably don't believe me, but I am. I never wanted to hurt you." "And yet you did," I said. "Sorry doesn't erase what you tried to do, Royal, but it's a start. If you actually follow through on these terms, if you actually change your behavior, then maybe we can rebuild some kind of relationship." "Is that possible?" Winnie asked. "After all this, can we really come back from it?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Time will tell, but I can promise you this: I will never trust any of you with my finances again, ever. That bridge is burned completely." "We understand," Judge said quietly. After they signed, Homer collected the documents and prepared to leave. At the door, he turned back to me. "Mrs. Maxwell, for what it's worth, I apologize for my role in this. Had I known the full circumstances, I never would have taken this case." "I believe you," I said. "Thank you for your honesty." After Homer left, my children stood there awkwardly, not sure what to do. "You can go," I said. "I'll have Dovey send you the information about the financial counselor and the therapist. First sessions start next week." "Mom," Winnie said, can we hug you?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no, to maintain my distance, to protect myself from further hurt. But they were still my children. Despite everything, I'd raised them, loved them, and some part of me still hoped they could change. "Yes," I said finally. One by one, they hugged me. All three were crying. I stayed stoic, not returning the embraces with much enthusiasm, but allowing them nonetheless. "We'll do better," Judge whispered. "I promise." "Prove it," I said. After my children left, I sat alone with Dovey in the conference room. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Exhausted," I admitted. "Sad, angry, relieved all at once." "That's understandable," Dovey said. "You've been carrying this burden for 6 months. Now it's out in the open." "Do you think they'll actually follow through?" I asked. "With the counseling, the therapy, all of it?" Some might not," Dovey said honestly. "But at least now they understand there are consequences for their actions, and they know you're not an easy target." "I never should have been a target at all," I said. "They're my children. They should have loved me, not tried to exploit me." "Unfortunately, financial exploitation by family members is incredibly common," Dovey said. "Adult children who see their aging parents' estates as their money and can't wait to inherit. It's sad, but it's reality." "Well, now they know they're not inheriting anything," I said. "Maybe that will motivate them to build their own wealth instead of waiting for mine." "Maybe," Dovey agreed. We sat in silence for a moment. "You know," I said, "part of me feels guilty, like maybe I should help them with their debts. They are my children after all." "And they're adults who made bad choices," Dovey reminded me gently. "Artie, if you bail them out now, what do they learn? That they can make terrible decisions and Mom will save them. That's not helping them, that's enabling them." "You're right," I said. "I know you're right, it's just hard." "Being a parent is hard," Dovey said. "But you're doing the right thing. Setting boundaries, enforcing consequences, protecting yourself, that's all necessary and healthy." 2 weeks later, I received a call from Dr. Zenobia Porter, the family therapist I'd arranged for my children. "Mrs. Maxwell, I wanted to update you on your children's first session," she said. "How did it go?" I asked. "It was difficult," Dr. Porter said carefully. "There's a lot of anger, blame, and denial. Winnie and Judge spent most of the session trying to justify their actions, while Royal was more remorseful." "That doesn't surprise me," I said. "Royal's always been the most sensitive of the three." "They asked if you would be willing to attend a family session at some point," Dr. Porter said, "once they've made some progress in individual counseling." "Maybe," I said. Eventually, but not yet. I need time to process all of this myself. That's completely reasonable, Dr. Porter assured me. Take all the time you need. When and if you're ready, I'll be here to facilitate. 2 months after the confrontation, my life had settled into a new normal. I'd changed all my passwords, updated all my security questions, and put additional protections on all my accounts. No one could access my financial information without multiple forms of verification. I'd stopped attending family events. The Sunday dinners I used to love now felt tainted by betrayal. My children invited me, but I declined every time. I need space, I'd tell them. I'll let you know when I'm ready. Winnie sent emails every few days. Long, rambling emails about how sorry she was, how she was working with the financial counselor, how she understood now what she'd done wrong. I read them but rarely responded. I wasn't ready to engage fully yet. Judge called once a week. The calls were awkward, stilted, full of uncomfortable silences. He'd ask how I was doing, tell me about his therapy sessions, ask if I'd reconsidered the will. The answer was always no. Royal sent cards. Handwritten cards apologizing, updating me on his progress with his gambling addiction, telling me he loved me. Of the three, Royal seemed to be trying the hardest to change, and part of me appreciated that. But I still wasn't ready to let my guard down. Then, one Saturday afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a woman I didn't recognize. She was in her 30s, well-dressed, with kind eyes. "Mrs. Maxwell," she asked. "My name is Dovie Chen. I'm sorry to show up unannounced, but I need to talk to you about your children." "What about them?" I asked warily. "May I come in?" Dovie Chen asked. "It's rather important." Against my better judgment, I let her in. We sat in my living room, and she pulled out a folder. "I'm a financial investigator," she explained. "I was hired by one of the charities you've named in your will." "Why would a charity hire an investigator?" I asked, confused. "Because they wanted to make sure your estate plan is legitimate," Dovie Chen said. "And in the course of my investigation, I discovered something you need to know." She opened the folder and showed me documents. "Your children haven't been attending the financial counseling," she said. "They went to 2 sessions and then stopped." My heart sank. "How do you know?" "I contacted the counselor you'd arranged. She confirmed they stopped coming and haven't responded to her attempts to reschedule." "What about the therapy?" I asked. "They went to 3 sessions together, then claimed scheduling conflicts," Dovie Chen said. "The therapist suspects they've quit." "And the apology letters?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Never sent," Dovie Chen confirmed. "I contacted your doctor, your bank manager, your financial advisor. None of them received apologies." I felt tears welling up. They'd agreed to my terms just to avoid prosecution, but they had no intention of actually following through. "There's more," Dovie Chen said gently. "They've been meeting with another lawyer, trying to find a way to contest your will despite the agreement they signed." "Can they do that?" I asked. "They can try," Dovie Chen said. "They're looking for any loophole, any technicality. The new lawyer they hired specializes in will contests. He's known for being aggressive and morally flexible." I sat back, feeling utterly defeated. I'd given them a chance. I'd offered them a path to redemption, and they'd thrown it away. "What do I do?" I asked. Dovie Chen smiled. "That's why I'm here. I have some suggestions." ARTIE's children broke their agreement. They stopped therapy, never sent the apologies, and now they're hearing a lawyer to contest the will. But Dovie Chen has a plan. What will Artie do next? How will she stop them? Subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on NOTFICTONS. Drop a comment. Should Artie press charges now? Do her children deserve another chance? Where are you watching from? I sat in my living room, staring at the evidence Dovie Chen had laid out before me. My children had violated every term of our agreement. They'd lied again, just like they'd been lying all along. "Tell me your suggestions," I said to Dovie Chen, "because right now I'm so angry I can barely think straight." Dovi Chen nodded sympathetically. I understand, but anger can be useful if we channel it properly. Your children think they're being clever, breaking the agreement while preparing to contest your will. But they've actually given us the perfect opportunity to shut them down completely. How? I asked. By beating them to the punch, Dovi Chen said. We're going to expose everything they've done before they can make their move. And we're going to do it in a way that makes any future we'll contest impossible. Dovi Chen pulled out a detailed plan she'd prepared. First, we document every violation of the agreement, she said. I've already started. They attended 2 financial counseling sessions out of the required ongoing treatment. They went to 3 therapy sessions and then stopped. And most importantly, they never sent a single apology letter to anyone you specified. So they broke the contract, I said. Completely, Dovi Chen confirmed. Which means you're no longer bound by your obligations either. You're free to press charges and go public. But you said we should do something different, I asked. Yes, Dovi Chen smiled. Because criminal charges take time and publicity can be messy. I'm proposing something more immediate, something that will stop them in their tracks and make sure they never try this again. She leaned forward. We're going to call a family meeting, a big one. Every relative, every family friend, everyone who matters. And you're going to tell them everything with evidence. Like I did at Thanksgiving with the original confrontation, I asked, remembering the story I'd heard about another woman who'd exposed her family's schemes. Exactly like that, Dovi Chen said. But this time, you won't be revealing a plan they thought was secret. You'll be revealing that they broke their promises, violated their agreement, and are now plotting to steal from you through the courts. They'll be humiliated, I said. They'll be exposed, Dovi Chen corrected. And more importantly, everyone in your family and social circle will know exactly what they've tried to do. That's a powerful deterrent. When they try to contest the will, the judge will hear testimony from dozens of people who witnessed their behavior. I thought about it. What else? We also create a trust, Dovi Chen said. Instead of leaving your estate directly to charities in your will, we put everything in an irrevocable trust now, while you're alive. You can be the beneficiary during your lifetime, and the charities become beneficiaries when you die. How does that help? I asked. Because trusts are much harder to contest than wills, Dovi Chen explained. A will can be challenged on grounds of competency or undue influence, but a trust created while you're clearly competent and actively managing your affairs, nearly impossible to break, especially with all the documentation we have. So they wouldn't be able to touch it, I said slowly. Exactly, Dovi Chen confirmed. The money would go to charity no matter what they tried. I like it, I said. What's the timeline? Over the next 2 weeks, Dovi Chen worked with my lawyer Dovi Martinez to set up an irrevocable charitable trust. All of my assets, the house, the investments, the savings accounts, everything, was transferred into the trust. I retained the right to live in the house and receive income from the trust during my lifetime. But when I died, everything would go directly to the charities I'd specified. No probate, no will to contest, just a straightforward transfer that my children couldn't stop. How does it feel? Dovi Martinez asked as I signed the final documents. Liberating, I said honestly, knowing that no matter what they try, they can't undo this. They're going to be very angry when they find out, Dovi Martinez warned. Good, I said. Let them be angry. Maybe this time they'll finally understand that their actions have real consequences. The next step was arranging the family meeting. I called my sister Zenobia, my brother Sterling, and several other family members I trusted. I need to gather the family together, I told Zenobia. Something important has happened that everyone needs to know about. Is everything okay? Zenobia asked, concerned. Are you sick? I'm fine, I assured her. But I need to tell everyone something about Winnie, Judge, and Royal. Can you help me organize a gathering at your house? Of course, Zenobia said. When? 2 weeks from Saturday, I said. And Zenobia, make sure everyone comes. This is important. Word spread through the family that I was making some kind of announcement. My children heard about it too. I made sure they were invited, though I didn't tell them what it was about. "Mom, what's this family meeting about?" Winnie called to ask. "You'll find out when everyone else does," I said calmly. "Is it about the will?" she asked nervously. "Because we've been thinking about what you said and we want to talk." "Save it for the meeting," I interrupted. "I'll see you in 2 weeks." Over those 2 weeks, I prepared. Dovi Chen helped me organize all the evidence, the recordings of my children plotting, documentation of their violated agreements, proof of the new trust, everything. We created a presentation with slides so everyone could see the evidence clearly. We prepared handouts documenting the timeline of events. We even hired a court reporter to create an official transcript of the meeting. "You're very thorough," Dovi Chen said admiringly. "I learned from my children," I said. "They spent months building a case against me. Now I'm returning the favor." The day of the family gathering arrived. Zenobia's house was packed with relatives, my siblings, nieces, nephews, cousins, and close family friends, 37 people in all. My 3 children arrived together, looking nervous. They'd clearly been discussing strategy. "Mom, can we talk to you before this starts?" Judge asked quietly. "No," I said. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of everyone. That's the whole point of this meeting." They exchanged worried glances, but didn't push further. Once everyone was settled, I stood at the front of the room with a laptop connected to Zenobia's large TV screen. "Thank you all for coming," I began. "I know this is unusual, calling everyone together like this, but something has happened that affects our whole family, and I wanted you all to hear it directly from me." Everyone was listening intently. My children looked like they wanted to sink through the floor. 6 months ago, I discovered that my 3 children were plotting to take control of my finances by making me appear incompetent, I said bluntly. Gasps echoed through the room. "That's not," Winnie started to protest. "Let me finish," I said firmly. "I have evidence, all of you will see it, then you can draw your own conclusions." I played the first recording, the one from Judge's house, where they discussed getting power of attorney and managing my money. The room was silent, except for the voices on the recording. "We need to move faster," Mom's still sharp. "If we wait too long, she'll figure out what we're doing." "I've already talked to her doctor about concerns regarding her memory. Do you want to inherit Mom's money or not?" When it ended, the silence was deafening. Everyone was staring at my children. "There's more," I said, clicking to the next slide. For the next 45 minutes, I laid out everything. How they'd contacted my doctor with false concerns about my memory. How they'd called my bank, pretending to be worried about my finances. How they'd researched power of attorney, specifically, to gain control of my assets. How they were each in severe financial trouble and counting on my money to bail them out. How I'd discovered their plot and changed my will to leave everything to charity. How they'd signed an agreement with specific terms in exchange for me not pressing charges. How they'd violated every single term of that agreement. And finally, how they were now plotting to contest the will with an aggressive lawyer. With each revelation, I showed evidence. Recordings, emails, bank statements, the violated agreement, everything. My family's reactions ranged from shock to anger to disgust. Several relatives were crying. Others were shaking their heads in disbelief. My children sat frozen, their faces pale, unable to deny anything because the evidence was right there for everyone to see. "How could you?" My sister Zenobia finally spoke, glaring at Winnie, Judge, and Royal. "How could you do this to your own mother?" "We were desperate," Winnie said weakly. "So that makes it okay to commit fraud?" Sterling, my brother, asked incredulously. "To lie about your mother being incompetent, to try to steal from her?" "We weren't stealing," Judge protested. "It would have been ours eventually anyway." "It's not yours," Sterling shouted. "It's Artie's money, she earned it. And instead of asking for help like decent human beings, you tried to take it by making her look senile." "We made a mistake," Royal said, tears streaming down his face. We know we did, but we signed the agreement. We agreed to make it right. You didn't make it right, I interrupted. You attended 2 counseling sessions and quit. You went to 3 therapy sessions and stopped. You never sent a single apology letter to anyone. You broke every promise you made. We were going to, Winnie insisted. We just needed more time. You had 2 months, I said. And instead of following through, you hired Burl Stone to help you contest my will. Don't lie to me anymore, Winnie. I know everything. The room erupted in angry voices, all directed at my children. There's one more thing you all need to know, I said, raising my voice to be heard over the chaos. 2 weeks ago, I transferred all of my assets into an irrevocable charitable trust. The room went silent again. My children's faces showed pure horror. What does that mean? My niece Dovie asked. It means the money is no longer part of my estate, I explained. It's in a trust that I control during my lifetime, but when I die, it goes directly to the charities I've chosen. There's no will to contest. There's no inheritance to fight over. It's done. You can't do that. Judge stood up, his face red with rage. That's OUR inheritance. It was never your inheritance, I said calmly. It was always my money, and now it's in a trust that you can't touch, can't contest, and can't break. You've lost, Judge. All 3 of you have lost. Winnie started crying. Mom, please, we're your children. You can't cut us off completely. I didn't cut you off, I corrected. You cut yourselves off when you chose greed over family, when you chose to lie and manipulate instead of being honest. You made your choices. Now you live with them. We'll sue you, Judge threatened. We'll take you to court. We'll prove you were coerced into creating that trust. Go ahead and try, I said. I have neurological evaluations proving my competence. I have video documentation of every meeting where the trust was discussed and created. I have witnesses who can testify I made these decisions freely. And now I have a room full of family members who have heard exactly what you tried to do to me. I looked around at my relatives. If my children try to contest this trust or claim I was incompetent, will any of you support their claim? One by one, every person in the room said no or shook their head. There's your answer, I said to my children. You have no case. You have no support. You have nothing except the consequences of your own actions. Royal completely broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom, I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I know I let you down. But please, please don't hate us forever. We're still your children. I don't hate you, I said, and I meant it. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. I'm angry. But I don't hate you. However, that doesn't mean I'm going to let you steal from me or manipulate me ever again. What about help? Winnie asked desperately. What if we really need help? What if we're drowning financially and we have nowhere to turn? Then you figure it out like adults, I said firmly. You declare bankruptcy if you have to. You sell your houses and downsize. You get second jobs. You do what millions of other people do when they're in financial trouble. You handle it yourselves. That's cold, Judge said bitterly. No, Sterling interjected. What's cold is trying to steal from your 72-year-old mother by making everyone think she has dementia. Artie is being generous by not having you arrested. Speaking of which, Dovie Chen stood up from where she'd been sitting quietly in the corner. Mrs. Maxwell still has the option to press charges. The statute of limitations hasn't run out on the fraud you attempted. The only reason she hasn't pursued criminal charges is because she hoped you would change. We can still change, Royal said desperately. Then do it, I said. Change. Get real help with your financial problems. Learn to live within your means. Stop expecting someone else to bail you out. Become the kind of people who deserve an inheritance. And maybe in the years I have left, we can rebuild some kind of relationship. But the money is still going to charity, Winnie said flatly. Yes, I confirmed. The money is still going to charity. That decision is final and irreversible. But money isn't everything, Winnie. If you can accept that, if you can focus on rebuilding trust instead of chasing an inheritance, then maybe we have a future relationship. If you can't, then I guess we don't. After my children left, they couldn't get out of there fast enough. The rest of the family stayed to talk. "Artie, I'm so sorry," Zenobia said, hugging me. "I had no idea they were capable of something like this." "None of us did," Sterling added. "But you handled it perfectly. You protected yourself and you gave them every chance to make it right. They chose not to." "Do you think they'll ever change?" my niece Dovie asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "Royal might. He seems genuinely remorseful. Judge is too proud and Winnie is too calculating. But time will tell." "What you said about money not being everything," my nephew Arch said, "that was powerful, because it's true. Those kids of yours are so focused on the inheritance that they're destroying their relationship with you. And what good is money if you've lost your family?" "Exactly," I said. "That's what I've been trying to teach them. But some lessons can only be learned through experience." Several family members came up to me privately throughout the evening. "If you ever need anything, Aunt Artie, I'm here," one said. "You're the strongest woman I know," another told me. "Thank you for trusting us enough to tell us the truth," a third said. By the end of the evening, I felt exhausted but supported. My immediate family might have betrayed me, but my extended family had my back completely. 3 weeks after the family gathering, I received a letter from Burl Stone, the lawyer my children had hired. "Dear Mrs. Maxwell, after reviewing the circumstances of your case and consulting with my clients, I have decided to withdraw from representation. I do not believe a will contest would be successful given the evidence available, and I cannot in good conscience pursue legal action that I believe to be frivolous. I wish you well. Sincerely, Burl Stone-esque." I showed the letter to Dovie Martinez. "He abandoned them," Dovie said with satisfaction. "Once he realized how much evidence you have and that you'd created an irrevocable trust, he knew there was no case. He didn't want to waste his time or risk his reputation on a losing battle." "So they have no lawyer," I said. "And they can't contest a trust that was legally created while you were demonstrably competent," Dovie confirmed. "You've won, Artie, completely." A week later, I got an email from Royal. "Mom, I'm writing because I know you don't want phone calls. I just wanted you to know that Judge and Winnie hired another lawyer to look at the trust situation. But after reviewing everything, he told them the same thing. There's nothing they can do. The trust is ironclad. Judge is furious. He says he's never speaking to you again. Winnie is in denial, convinced there must be some way to fight this. But me, I'm done. I'm not fighting you anymore. You were right about everything. I was greedy, I was selfish, and I tried to take something that wasn't mine. I've started going to Gamblers Anonymous. For real this time, not just to fulfill some agreement. Because I realized I have a serious problem and I need help. I don't expect you to forgive me or trust me again, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to be better. Not to get an inheritance, I know that's gone, but to be the kind of son you deserved all along. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I forgot that for a while. Royal." I read the email 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Maybe, just maybe, one of my children had actually learned something from all this. ARTIE exposed her children in front of the entire family. She created an irrevocable trust they can't contest. Their lawyer abandoned them. But is this really the end? Can any of her children truly change? What happens next? Subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on NOTFICTONS. Drop a comment. Do you think Royal's change is genuine? Should Artie give him another chance? Where are you watching from? 1 year after I exposed my children's scheme at the family gathering, my life looked completely different than I ever imagined it would. I was 73 years old, living peacefully in the home I'd worked my whole life for, surrounded by family members who genuinely cared about me, just not the family members I'd expected. The trust was secure, my assets were protected, and I'd learned that sometimes the family you choose is more valuable than the family you're born into. But the story of my 3 children didn't end where I thought it would. Royal had kept his word. He'd been attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times a week for 6 months straight. He'd gotten a sponsor, worked through the 12 steps, and hadn't placed a single bet. He sent me an email every Sunday, not asking for anything, just updating me on his progress and telling me about his life. "Mom, I celebrated 6 months sober from gambling today. My sponsor says that's a major milestone. I never realized how much of my life I'd wasted chasing the next big win. I'm learning to find satisfaction in small, real things instead." I started responding to his emails. Short responses at first, just acknowledging his progress. But gradually, our correspondence grew longer and more personal. "Royal, I'm proud of you for doing this hard work. Not for me, but for yourself. That takes real courage." After 8 months, Royal asked if he could visit me for coffee. Just the two of us, no expectations, no agenda. I hesitated, but Dovi Martinez, my lawyer, encouraged me. "He's showing consistent change over time," she said. "That's the best indicator that it's genuine. You don't have to trust him with your finances, but you can give him a chance to rebuild the personal relationship." So I agreed to coffee. Royal showed up at my door looking different than I remembered. Thinner, but healthier. His eyes were clear instead of having that desperate, haunted look he'd had before. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. "Hi, Royal," I said. "Come in." We sat in my kitchen drinking coffee, the same kitchen where I'd made him breakfast as a child, helped him with homework, listened to his problems. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Royal started. "I know what I did was unforgivable. I tried to steal from you. I lied about you. I was willing to have you declared incompetent just to get money to feed my gambling addiction." "Yes," I agreed. "You did all those things." "But I want you to know why," Royal continued. "Not as an excuse, but as an explanation. I was drowning, Mom. The gambling had taken over my entire life. I'd lost everything, my savings, my retirement, even my house was mortgaged beyond its value. And instead of asking for help, instead of admitting I had a problem, I decided to take the easy way out." "By stealing from me," I said. "By stealing from you," Royal confirmed, his eyes filling with tears. "And I told myself it was okay because you were old, because you'd die eventually anyway and I'd inherit it. I convinced myself I was just accessing my inheritance early." "That's a common rationalization," I said. "Doesn't make it right." "I know," Royal said. "And that's what I'm working on in GA, understanding that my addiction made me rationalize terrible things, breaking that pattern of thinking." We sat in silence for a moment. "Are you really done gambling?" I asked. "Truly done?" "I can't promise I'll never gamble again," Royal said honestly. "Addiction doesn't work that way, but I can promise that I'm doing everything in my power to stay in recovery. I go to meetings. I work with my sponsor. I've installed blocking software on my computer and phone. I've banned myself from every casino in the state. I'm fighting this, Mom, every single day." "That's all I can ask," I said. We talked for 2 hours. About his recovery, about his life, about the damage he'd done, and how he was trying to make amends. When he left, he hugged me. "Thank you for giving me this chance. Even just to talk, I know I don't deserve it." "Maybe not," I agreed, "but I'm giving it to you anyway." Winnie's journey was completely different from Royal's. She'd hired 3 different lawyers to look at the trust situation. All 3 told her the same thing: it was unbreakable. She'd spent thousands of dollars she didn't have on legal fees, trying to find a way to access money that would never be hers. She sent me angry emails, accusing me of being cruel, heartless, ungrateful for everything she'd done for me over the years. "You're punishing us for one mistake. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." I didn't respond to those emails. There was no point. Winnie couldn't see past her own sense of entitlement. Then, about 10 months after the family gathering, Winnie's world collapsed. Her husband filed for divorce, citing her financial irresponsibility and her obsessive focus on my inheritance. Her company let her go because her work performance had deteriorated, and the bank foreclosed on her house because she'd missed 6 months of mortgage payments. My sister Zenobia called to tell me, "Artie, I think you should know Winnie's in bad shape. She's lost everything. She's living in a 1-bedroom apartment and working retail to make ends meet." Did she ask you to call me? I asked. No, Zenobia said. In fact, she made me promise not to. She's too proud. But I thought you should know. I felt a pang of sympathy. Despite everything, she was still my daughter. But I'd learned my lesson about enabling bad behavior. If she needs help, she can ask me herself, I said. But I'm not going to reach out first, and I'm certainly not giving her money. I understand, Zenobia said. I just wanted you to know the situation. 3 weeks later, I got a different kind of email from Winnie. Mom, I've lost everything. My marriage, my job, my house, and I know it's my own fault. I spent the last year so focused on your money that was never mine, that I neglected everything that actually mattered. I destroyed my marriage because I was obsessed with an inheritance. I lost my job because I couldn't focus on work. I'm not writing to ask for money. I know you won't give it to me, and I know I don't deserve it. I'm writing to say I'm sorry, really sorry. I was wrong about everything. You weren't being cruel by changing your will. You were protecting yourself from us, from me, and you had every right to do that. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I did wrong, and I'm so sorry. Winnie. I read the email several times. It sounded genuine, but I'd been fooled before. I decided to wait and see if Winnie's actions matched her words. Judge, true to Royal's prediction, never spoke to me again. He refused to attend family gatherings where I'd be present. He sent me no emails, made no calls, made no attempts at reconciliation. Through other family members, I heard he doubled down on his bitterness. He told anyone who would listen that I was a terrible mother, that I'd abandoned my children in their time of need, that I'd chosen strangers, the charities, over my own flesh and blood. Most of the family didn't believe him. They'd been at the gathering. They'd seen the evidence. But a few relatives took his side, mostly people who hadn't been there and only heard his version of events. Let them believe what they want, Sterling told me. The truth is documented. Anyone who actually cares to know it can find out. Judge's business did eventually fail. He declared bankruptcy and lost nearly everything. Last I heard, he was working as a sales manager at a car dealership. Decent work, but a far cry from being his own boss. Part of me felt bad for him, but a larger part of me recognized that these were the consequences of his own choices. He'd made bad business decisions, and instead of dealing with them honestly, he'd tried to steal from me to cover his mistakes. Now he was facing reality, and he was still too proud to admit he'd been wrong. 1 year after the family gathering, Royal asked if he could meet with me again. We'd been having coffee together once a month. Our relationship was tentative, fragile, but slowly rebuilding. Mom, I have something to ask you, Royal said, and I want you to know there's no pressure. If you say no, I'll understand completely. What is it? I asked. I'm 1 year sober from gambling, Royal said. That's a major milestone in recovery, and I've been thinking a lot about amends, about how to make up for what I did to you. Royal, you can't make up for it, I said gently. Some things can't be undone. I know, Royal said, but I can try to do better going forward, which is why I wanted to propose something. He pulled out a notebook. I want to start a foundation, a nonprofit organization that helps families dealing with gambling addiction. Education, counseling, support groups, all the things I wish had been available before I hit rock bottom. That's a good idea, I said. But Royal, starting a nonprofit takes money you don't have. I know, Royal said, which is why I'm not asking you for money. I'm asking for something else. What? I asked cautiously. Your knowledge, Royal said. You and Dad built that $4 million estate from nothing. You know how to save, invest, and manage money. I want you to teach me. Help me learn to do the same on a smaller scale. Help me build something legitimate instead of always chasing the quick win. I was surprised. You want financial advice from me? I want to learn from the best, Royal said. And Mom, you are the best. You built an empire while raising 3 kids and working part-time. You protected your assets from everyone who tried to take them. You're brilliant with money. I want to learn from you. And the foundation? I asked. I'll start small, Royal said. I'll volunteer with existing organizations, learn how they work, save money from my job. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, I'll have enough to start something of my own. Or maybe I'll just keep volunteering. Either way, I want to use my experience to help others. I felt tears in my eyes. This was the son I'd raised. The kind, thoughtful boy who'd wanted to help people. The gambling addiction had buried that person, but maybe he was finding his way back. I'll teach you, I said. We can meet weekly. I'll show you how your father and I built our wealth, how we budgeted, saved, invested, all of it. Royal's face lit up. Really? Really, I confirmed. But Royal, this doesn't change the trust. The money still goes to charity when I die. I know, Royal said, and I don't want it to change. Those charities will do more good with that money than I ever could. I just want to learn how to build my own legacy, a better one. 2 months after that meeting with Royal, Winnie called me. It was the first time she'd called in over a year. Mom, it's Winnie. Do you have a few minutes to talk? I do, I said cautiously. I wanted you to know that I've been in therapy, Winnie said. Real therapy, not the fake sessions I went to before. I've been working on understanding why I did what I did, why I became so obsessed with money and status that I tried to steal from my own mother. What have you learned? I asked. That I equated money with worth, Winnie said. I thought being wealthy made me valuable, better than other people. And when I started losing money, I felt like I was losing my identity, so I became desperate to get it back any way I could. That's a tough realization, I said. It is, Winnie agreed. But my therapist is helping me understand that my worth isn't tied to my bank account, that I can be valuable as a person regardless of how much money I have. I'm glad you're learning that, I said. Mom, I'm calling because I want to make amends, Winnie said. Not for the inheritance, I know that's gone and I accept it, but for the relationship. For the years I spent treating you like an ATM instead of a person. What are you proposing? I asked. I'd like to start over, Winnie said. Slowly, maybe coffee once a month like you're doing with Royal. No expectations, no agenda, just getting to know each other again as people, not as mother and source of inheritance. I thought about it. Winnie had hurt me deeply. More than Royal in some ways because she'd been the ringleader of the scheme. But she'd also lost everything and was rebuilding from the ground up. Maybe that was what it took for her to finally understand. Okay, I said. We can try coffee, once a month. But Winnie, if I see any sign that you're falling back into old patterns, any hint of manipulation or entitlement, I'm done. No second chances. I understand, Winnie said. Thank you, Mom, for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. With my children slowly rebuilding their lives, I turned my attention to the charities that would eventually receive my estate. I started volunteering regularly at the Women's Shelter, the Children's Shelter, and the Literacy Foundation. I wanted to see firsthand how they operated, how they helped people, how they used their resources. It was deeply fulfilling work. I met women escaping abusive relationships, children who'd been abandoned or neglected, adults learning to read for the first time. Mrs. Maxwell, you've been such a blessing to our organization, the director of the Women's Shelter, Zenobia Cross, told me. Your volunteer work is invaluable. I'm happy to help, I said, and please call me Artie. Artie, Zenobia smiled, can I ask you something? We heard a rumor that you're planning to leave a substantial gift to the shelter in your will. Is that true? It's not a rumor, I confirmed. My entire estate is in a charitable trust. When I die, it will be divided among several organizations, including your shelter. Zenobia's eyes filled with tears. That's incredibly generous. Do you mind if I ask how much? The shelter will receive approximately $1 million, I said. Zenobia actually gasped. 1 million? Artie, do you know what we could do with that kind of money? We could double our capacity. We could hire more counselors. We could provide job training programs. We could change so many lives. That's exactly what I want, I said. I worked my whole life to build that wealth. Now I want it to do some good in the world. May I ask, Zenobia said carefully, why you chose to leave your money to charity instead of to your children? I don't mean to pry, but… My children tried to steal from me, I said simply. They plotted for months to have me declared incompetent so they could control my finances. When I discovered their plan, I changed my will and created an irrevocable trust. Oh my God, Zenobia said. I can't even imagine. It was a difficult time, I admitted, but it taught me something important. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and money often brings out the worst in people. Are you still in contact with your children? Zenobia asked. 2 of them, I said. Royal and Winnie are slowly rebuilding their relationships with me. Judge wants nothing to do with me, and that's okay. I've made peace with it. 18 months after I'd exposed my children's scheme, I hosted a family gathering at my house. A different kind of gathering than that devastating day at Zenobia's. This time, the atmosphere was warm, celebratory, healing. Royal came with his girlfriend, a woman he'd met at Gamblers Anonymous who was also in recovery. They were both 2 years sober and planning to get married. Winnie came alone. She was still divorced, but she looked healthier than I'd seen her in years. She'd gained weight in a good way, her eyes were bright, and she smiled genuinely instead of the fake, brittle smiles she used to give. Judge was invited but didn't come. I'd expected that. The rest of the family was there. Zenobia, Sterling, nieces, nephews, and cousins who'd supported me through everything. I want to make an announcement, I said after dinner. Some of you know I've been volunteering at several charities over the past year, and I've decided to get more involved. How so? Zenobia asked. I'm joining the board of directors for the women's shelter, I said. And I'm establishing a scholarship fund at the Literacy Foundation in my late husband's name. While I'm alive, I'll be contributing money monthly to both organizations. Mom, that's wonderful, Winnie said. I thought my money should start doing good now, while I'm here to see it, I explained. Why wait until I'm dead? I want to watch these organizations help people. I want to be part of it. How much are you contributing? Royal asked. $5,000 a month, split between the 2 organizations, I said. I can afford it, and it makes me happy to see the money being used well. That's amazing, Aunt Artie, my niece Dovie said. You're literally changing lives. Speaking of changing lives, Royal said, standing up, I have an announcement too. I've been accepted into a master's program for social work. I'm going to become a certified addiction counselor. The room erupted in applause. Royal, that's incredible, I said, hugging him. You inspired me, Mom, Royal said. Watching you turn your pain into purpose, using what happened to help others, it made me realize I could do the same. I can use my experience with gambling addiction to help other people avoid the same mistakes. I'm so proud of you, I said, tears streaming down my face. Winnie stood up next. I have something to share too. I've started a support group for women dealing with financial abuse. We meet weekly at my church. I share my story, how I became obsessed with money and status, how I lost everything, and how I'm rebuilding. That's wonderful, Winnie, Zenobia said. It's healing, Winnie explained. Every time I tell my story, I remember why I can't go back to that person I was, and hopefully, I help someone else avoid making the same mistakes. 3 weeks after the family gathering, I received an unexpected visitor. Judge stood on my doorstep, looking uncomfortable and much older than his 49 years. Can I come in? He asked. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Yes. We sat in my living room, the tension thick between us. I heard about Royal going to school for social work, Judge said, and Winnie's support group. Yes, I said, they're both doing well. I also heard you're on the board of the women's shelter now, Judge continued, and that you're giving away $5,000 a month to charity. That's correct, I said. Judge was quiet for a long moment. I came to tell you that I was wrong. I'd waited nearly 2 years to hear those words from him, but now that I was hearing them, I felt nothing, just a mild curiosity about what he'd say next. I was wrong to try to take your money, Judge continued. I was wrong to lie about you being incompetent. I was wrong to blame you when you protected yourself. And I was especially wrong to cut you out of my life for the past 2 years just because I didn't get the inheritance I wanted. Yes, I agreed. You were wrong about all of that. I've been watching Royal and Winnie rebuild their relationships with you, Judge said. And I've been thinking maybe I should do the same. Why? I asked bluntly. What's changed? I hit rock bottom, Judge admitted. Lost my business, declared bankruptcy, lost most of my friends. And through it all, I kept blaming you. Kept telling myself that if you'd just given me the money I needed, none of this would have happened. And now? I asked. Now I realize that even if you had given me the money, I would have wasted it, Judge said. Just like I wasted everything else. The problem wasn't you refusing to help. The problem was me not knowing how to help myself. That's true, I said. I don't expect you to welcome me back with open arms, Judge said. I don't expect you to trust me, and I'm definitely not asking for money. I just wanted to apologize, sincerely, for everything. I accept your apology, I said. But Judge, I need you to understand something. The trust isn't changing. The money is going to charity. Even if we rebuild our relationship completely, that doesn't change. I know, Judge said. And honestly, I think that's good. Those charities will do more with your money than I ever could. I squandered every opportunity I had. At least your legacy will actually help people. We talked for another hour. It wasn't warm or comfortable, but it was honest. When Judge left, he paused at the door. Would it be okay if I came to the next family gathering? I'd like to start being part of the family again. Yes, I said. You're always welcome. 2 years after I'd flipped my children's plan completely, I celebrated my 75th birthday surrounded by family. All 3 of my children were there. Royal with his wife, both of them 3 years sober and working as addiction counselors. Winnie with her new boyfriend, a humble man who worked as a teacher and didn't care about her lack of money. And Judge with his girlfriend, a woman who'd supported him through bankruptcy and helped him rebuild his life. They'd each brought gifts, not expensive ones, but thoughtful ones. Books they knew I'd enjoy, plants for my garden, a photo album filled with family memories. Speech, Zenobia called out. I stood up, looking around at the family I'd almost lost, but had somehow, miraculously, partially regained. 2 years ago, I began, my family thought they'd won. They thought they had the perfect plan to take control of my money and my life. They thought I was too old, too trusting, too naive to stop them. Everyone was quiet, listening. But they underestimated me, I continued. They forgot that I'd built that wealth through intelligence, hard work, and careful planning. They forgot that I was still sharp, still capable, and still willing to fight for myself. So I flipped their plan completely, I said. I exposed their scheme. I changed my will. I created an unbreakable trust, and I showed them that actions have consequences. I looked at Royal, Winnie, and Judge. It wasn't easy. It hurt deeply to discover that my own children were plotting against me, but it also taught me something important. What's that? Royal asked. That real love isn't about money, I said. It's not about inheritance or possessions or wealth. It's about showing up. It's about doing the hard work of change. It's about choosing relationship over riches. All 3 of you made terrible mistakes, I continued. But 2 of you, Royal and Winnie, did the hard work of recovery and redemption. You admitted your wrongs. You changed your behavior. You rebuilt trust slowly and honestly. And Judge, even though you took longer, you eventually got there too. I'm proud of all 3 of you, I said. Not because you're perfect, you're not, but because you're trying, because you're growing, because you finally understand that who you are matters more than what you have. The trust hasn't changed, I reminded them. When I die, my money goes to charity. That's still the plan. But what has changed is our relationship. We're rebuilding it on a foundation of honesty instead of greed, and that's worth more than any inheritance. Royal stood up. Mom, I want to say something. Go ahead, I said. 2 years ago, when you cut us out of your will, I was devastated, Royal said. I thought you were being cruel and vindictive, But now I understand you were being smart and self-protective. And more than that, you were teaching us a lesson we desperately needed to learn." "Which was?" I asked. "That we're not entitled to anything just because we exist," Royal said. "That we have to earn respect, trust, and relationship through our actions. And that money should never be more important than family." Winnie stood up next. "I want to add something. Mom, you didn't just protect yourself by changing your will. You saved us. Because if you'd given in, if you'd let us take control of your finances, we would have wasted it all and learned nothing. Instead," Winnie continued, "we lost our chance at the inheritance and it forced us to face ourselves, to address our real problems, my status obsession, Royal's gambling, Judge's pride. We had to become better people because the money wasn't coming to bail us out." Judge stood up last. "Mom, I fought you the longest. I was the most bitter, the most resentful. But I finally understand what my siblings learned earlier. You did the right thing. You protected yourself, you enforced consequences, and you gave us the opportunity to change. Not everyone gets that opportunity." I felt tears streaming down my face. "Thank you, all three of you, for doing the work, for growing, for becoming the people I always knew you could be." "And thank you," Royal said, "for not giving up on us completely, for leaving the door open for redemption, for teaching us that change is possible at any age." "I learned that from you," I said. "You three proved that people can change, no matter how far they've fallen. And that's a lesson worth more than $4 million. As the party wound down and family members started leaving, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. Zenobia came and sat beside me. "You did good, sis," she said. "Look at them." I followed her gaze. Royal was laughing with his wife, genuinely happy in a way I hadn't seen in decades. Winnie was deep in conversation with Judge and his girlfriend, all of them relaxed and comfortable. No tension, no hidden agendas, just family enjoying each other's company. 2 years ago, I thought I'd lost them forever, I admitted. I thought by changing my will and exposing their plan, I was choosing my own protection over my relationship with my children. "But it turns out," Zenobia said, "protecting yourself was exactly what they needed. It forced them to face the truth about themselves." "Some lessons can only be learned through consequences," I said. "I wish it hadn't come to this. I wish they'd never tried to steal from me in the first place. But since they did, at least some good came out of it." "More than some good," Zenobia said. "Look at Royal becoming an addiction counselor, Winnie running her support group, Judge learning humility. Your $4 million is going to help a lot of people through those charities. But you've already changed lives just by standing up for yourself." "The charities will get the money," I said. "But my children got something more valuable. They got a chance to become better people, to build lives they can be proud of, to create their own legacies instead of just waiting for mine." "And they're doing it," Zenobia said. "They're actually doing it." I smiled. "Yes, they are." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. "Do you ever regret it?" Zenobia asked. "Changing the will, cutting them out?" "No," I said without hesitation. "I did what I had to do to protect myself, and it turned out to be the best thing I could have done for them too. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is enforce consequences and let people face the results of their choices." "You're a wise woman, Artie," Zenobia said. "I'm a woman who refused to be a victim," I corrected. "There's a difference." As darkness fell, I went back inside my house. My beautiful house that I'd protected. The house that would eventually fund scholarships and shelter beds and literacy programs. My family thought they'd won when they started plotting to take my money. They screamed when I flipped their plan completely, when they realized they'd lost everything they'd schemed for. But in the end, nobody won and nobody lost. We all just changed, grew, learned. And that, I realized, was the best possible outcome. My money would help strangers build better lives. My children would build better lives for themselves. And I would spend my remaining years surrounded by people who loved me for who I was, not for what I had. That was a legacy worth more than any inheritance. What an incredible transformation. Artie protected herself, exposed her children's greed, and ultimately helped them become better people. Her money is going to charity, but her children found something more valuable: redemption, growth, and genuine relationships. This story proves that it's never too late to protect yourself from exploitation. Setting boundaries can actually help the people you love. Real change requires consequences, not enabling. Redemption is possible, but it requires genuine effort. Your worth isn't measured by your inheritance. The best legacy is the lives you change, not the money you leave. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to this channel for more empowering stories. Smash that like button. Turn on notifications for new content. Drop a comment. What was your favorite moment in Artie's journey? Do you think her children truly changed? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, South Africa, Australia, Trinidad, Philippines? Let me know. Remember, protecting yourself from exploitation isn't selfish, it's necessary. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is enforce consequences. Your legacy should be about the positive change you create, not just the money you leave behind.